I'm now going to do a video.
You and I are the only two people that are going to think that's ever funny.
I know. That's true.
Because it was consensual. I'm ready.
Are you ready?
I'm ready now. Are you ready now?
I am ready now.
Okay.
I am sitting here with Vida. Killian. That's it, right?
Yeah.
Oh, good. That's good. And we're at the Customer First Conference. And I'm using my new little fangled camera.
It's awesome.
It is an awesome camera.
Cool.
It is fun. So maybe I'll be a little shaky though. I should be drinking either more coffee or less. I'm not sure. There we go. So, from the crowd today, what are some of the, what is the one thing that struck you about the questions that the crowd asked today about your presentation?
I think the questions on my presentation was on Dell's social media journey, just to give context for the video crowd. The questions were a lot around how do I listen. So how is Dell taking finding the feedback, finding the conversations, using the information back into the company. That seems to be the biggest struggle, is finding the information and then what do you do with it back to the company organizationally.
And as far as the doing part, that's probably the part that we've certainly, a lot of companies haven't reached that point yet. I mean, I think most of the companies here that we're here, we're still learning about the whole idea of that you need to be listening.
Yes.
And you guys have been listening since 2006 in a lot of ways, with this being engaged in social media. And you've got to the point now where you definitely, one of the things I noticed in your presentation that I really liked about it was that you said, and this got retweeted a few times when I tweeted about it, was social media belongs everywhere in the organization. And it doesn't just belong in PR or just marketing or just customer service. Any further thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I think every conference I've been to, the question has always been asked, where does social media live? Service, raise your hand. Marketing, raise your hand. PR, raise your hand. There's not one ideal place for it to sit centrally because it affects so many parts of your business. I think what Dell's learned over time is there is a need for a central team to understand what is the strategy, what is the governance, what are the tools, what are the technologies that we're using. But the place we've evolved to is now that central team is actually quite small, and we're distributing the knowledge and the actual ownership of the social media fits with the different business groups, because ultimately the business group knows their customers, they know their needs, and they know what objectives they're trying to meet with each of their customers on engagement. And then they're coming back to the central team to say, guidance, consulting, help, tools, how can we do this appropriately? You help us, but ultimately ownership is with the people and the most closely connected to the customers.
Yeah. What are some of the things that, when the company gets to that point, what are some of the, like, 2 or 3 things that, when you start to push it out into the enterprise, that end up being things you maybe you hadn't thought of? Because when you're focused on that core team gets doing it so much they really totally understand it, becomes second nature, and it's almost like restarting it again because you're dealing with folks that just have never actually done anything in social media. Then sometimes there's some fears about, like, what am I supposed to do and all that stuff, and I really think that's an awesome idea of making sure that the core team is there to assist and to recommend ways to kind of approach things.
Yep.
What are some of the things that, again, you've discovered that really hadn't thought of before when it kind of went out into the enterprise?
I think the number one thing we discovered, we knew a lot more than we realized we knew.
Yeah.
Once you started talking to people, once we actually started putting documentation and training around how do you interact on a blog, how do you create a Facebook page, how do you respond in a forum, we started putting those training materials together because we all knew it, because we grew up with it and the central team had the knowledge. Once we got to the point where we had to share it, there was a lot more content there than we realized.
Yeah.
And so now we're to the point of getting those training materials in place so we can easily share them throughout the organization. I think that's probably the key learning, is getting other people up to speed quickly and easily without making a very bureaucratic process. Probably the second thing we learned was around the governance, which is not a really pretty word, but in a large organization, that's basically what you need. So we actually have a governance council that has one representative from each business unit coming to a table once a week, and we're talking about what are we all doing, sharing best practices, sharing lessons learned, and making sure that we don't have a rogue mission going off to do a social media campaign that's completely against Dell's transparency policy or Dell's ethics policy or our social media policy and the way we want to engage with our customers.
A lot of we're in November now, and there's a number of people putting out blog posts on, you know, what will 2010 bring as far as like what are some predictions. It's, you know, you and I have known each other for I think it's probably been close to a year, I think, and I've known a lot of the different other folks in Dell for at least that, if not longer. And it's amazing how much stuff changes every year that we move forward. So, what are some of the things you'll see like this time next year? What do you think in the overall scheme of things with social media, listening, engaging? What's a prediction that you have?
A prediction idea. I'm not going to give away any of our secrets,
No.
We have a lot of things planned.
No, that's good.
My prediction in the market in general, the social media world in general, is there's going to be a lot of companies that jump on the bandwagon, and a large percentage of those that do not do it well. They treat it as a marketing outlet and not a conversation engine. And so I think you're going to see higher quantity of companies doing it, but the ones doing it with the true mission at heart of engaging with customers are really going to be segregated from those that are just putting their social media campaigns on Twitter.
It's a pretty prediction. Well, we'll check back in the year and see how that worked out. So, Vida, Killian from Dell, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan.
All right, see ya.
See ya.